You asked for it, we're gonna do it. Under its own power, we're gonna remove this truck from its burial spot today. This week sometime.
Dump that crap off.
I've discovered that there's a date on the oil filter. Alright, so that means this truck has been parked for 26 years.
So just pouring about a splash of tranny fluid down the cylinder. So we got another points and condenser, we're gonna put that in. Oh baby.
Alright, so we sent Chug into town to get some sandwiches for us. And we're back out here after lunch.
She was even nice enough to bring us some radiator hoses.
Unfortunately, she ate half my sandwich, but not yours. So you're okay with this, but I'm a little upset. Whatever, it is what it is.
Well, she was my dog, so.
Yeah. What actually happened is that when we got back from lunch, Ron, the guy we bought this truck from, was out here. And we talked to him a little bit, and he said the only reason it really got parked was because he got a new truck. This one was just starting to have a couple small issues here and there, and he moved on.
Just old. I mean, he must not have been that old. He must be really old now, you know. But he was saying he just didn't have time to work on it, and away it went. And that happens so much with all these old cars, you know. It's like they're fairly decent, and then they're just kind of put out to pasture when they're still pretty good.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but hey, we're going to bring her back to life, put her back on the road. He's going to track down a title for us, and he's been helping us out, so Ron's a cool dude.
Definitely is.
Glad to be working with him.
So, some of the things moving forward here, obviously, the cooling system's probably full of crap. He must have removed all the radiators, as I'm sure you've seen that, and scrapped them or something. As I'm sure you've seen, nothing has a radiator yet, but there is a ton of junk in the cooling system. So what we're going to do is pull our water neck off here and remove our thermostat, which is probably rusted in place anyway, but we're going to remove that so that whatever particulates have built up in here can free flow through. And I might have to go home to get a radiator. We'll have to poke around the farm here and see if we can.
Yeah, do you want to do that now?
Find one. Yeah, in a bit. But really what we're going to do is take our carburetor. Obviously our accelerator pump was pretty petrified, so after we cranked the throttle a few times, now we got a bunch of old varnish fuel, which reeks, sitting on top of our intake. So we'll replace that. We'll pull the top of our carb off, make sure it's all clean down there. Once it runs decent, obviously we'll change the oil. We're working through things. I located the wire for the voltage regulator here, so since we're bypassing the key, we'll be able to use our charging system if our alternator is still good, but you can hear that click in there, so that's going to work. Yeah, it's kind of where we're at, just working through things.
Okay, sweep some of this glass out of here. Well, I had a tape that said, "New Riders of the Purple Sage, The Adventures of Panama Red."
So inconsiderate. Why couldn't they just busted the windows out from the inside out?
Or just left it alone. I mean, that's what I would have gone for.
Hey, what do you think's behind the seat?
I don't know.
Anything
Glass.
cool?
The gas tank.
Glass in the gas tank. Yeah, it's from the era of when the gas tank was behind it. Oh, got
tube of caulk. Weather sealant. Anyway, we're clearing off the floor, and look how solid the running board is in this truck.
Usually on the old 60s stuff, this is like completely gone.
Yeah, and look, the cab corner. Even the tip of the bed, it's all still here.
I know, it's pretty impressive.
That is nuts. For Iowa, there should be no truck.
Yeah, you know, when you live out in the middle of nowhere, like where this thing probably lived its whole life, there's just not a lot of salt, I'd imagine. So, even though it was probably driven in winter all the time, held up pretty good.
There we go. Ah, first sights, we got Waylon Jennings and the Honky Tonk Heroes.
How did you just pronounce that?
Waylon Jennings. And the Honky Tonk Heroes.
Waylon Jennings, son.
Oh, sorry, do you know him? Dude, this is so good. You could play this.
That's like country classics, bud.
Really?
Totally.
I don't listen to country.
That,
My dog didn't die, my tractor didn't roll away. Uh-oh. Brand new throwout bearing.
Yeah, before the windows got smashed out and got rained on, that was totally new. Bet you that was in the glove box there. What do you suppose that's some of the reason why it got parked?
I bet you that's why our clutch doesn't work right. It's probably seized the flywheel and everything's kind of dickered up.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what we got going on, ultimately.
But regardless, we can get it to run.
Yeah, everything gets parked for a reason, so.
She'll run.
Nice. Alright, so as Kevin works to, on the arduous task of getting that all cleaned off, which, you know, if I ever have kids, kind of, the punishment I'm going to give them is to scrape gaskets. It's about the worst thing.
There's still coolant in this motor.
You ever have to do.
Back in there's green liquid.
No way.
Sweet. So that was actually sealed pretty decent.
Yeah, good deal. So it's probably a little rusted up, but it'll be alright. So anyway, you know, Ron kind of said we can poke around, see what we can find. He did mention that people have stolen all the radiators out of the vehicles, but he said there's plenty of them that should be around the farm here. So while Kevin gets that all cleaned up, I'm going to roll out and see if I can find one. And we got a lot of cool stuff out here, kind of like this old hay rack with a tree growing through it, and we'll just capture some of that as we go. Alright, we're getting pretty far back in here now, and I did see the hood of a vehicle out here in a field. Maybe if we're lucky. Get through this mess. Doesn't look like there's a radiator in that guy either. Getting into the way back of the property now. A bunch of really cool old wagon wheels. Stuff kind of scattered all over the place. Some rear axle. Back there, that looks like some old 40s car. And there is a tree growing out of where the engine would have been. That looks like a smaller radiator. Looks like it has a hole in it. If we can't find anything else, I guess we'll just try and use that one. Well, I found one.
You find one?
Yeah, it seems like it might have a hole in it. It was for some sort of a small automatic car, but for what we're doing,
Sure.
hopefully it'll be alright, yeah.
Looks like we're going to have to build something to make our hose size much smaller.
Yeah, that's why I figured it was probably for something really small. It's pretty much junk. It looks like, yeah, we'll have to get creative. So we're going to remove our thermostat, just because there's probably a lot of particulate that's hung in here from, you know, it just sitting. And we don't really want that to get stuck behind a new thermostat and that doesn't flow coolant and we overheat the thing, because who knows if our gauges actually work? Probably not.
Alright, so our radiator clearly is not for this application. We're going to have to do a little bit of modification to the coolant system itself and the fact that this hose doesn't quite fit. So what we're going to do is we've taken a piece of the old hose, cleaned it up, cut it down so it fits right inside this one. Just like so. As you can see there. But still not quite right. So what I'm going to do now is wrap this neck in electrical tape and then clamp her down nice and tight. Call it a day.
Alright, we're getting the water neck on here. It's one step closer to the cooling system. I opted just to not use a gasket and use gasket sealer. This is temporary, but the reason I'm using gasket sealer is this guy is pretty rusted and pitted, and the gasket sealer will account for all the irregularities in the surfaces. So anyway, we got those cleaned up to the best of our ability, and we're just gonna slap that guy back on there.
They chug. They chug. Oh my god, it's dead. No. We're gonna miss you now that you died, dog.
Alright, we're gonna get the carb top pulled off here. Spray off our needle and seat assembly. Man, that was pretty loose. And just see what we're dealing with inside this carb. It'd be nice to be able to use it. Luckily these 4100s are pretty friendly here, or 2100, excuse me. Almost called it a 4100. Well, I did, but anyway. And it actually looks like from all the cranking we did on it, we sucked all the old varnished gas up. So maybe we'll try and suck that on out of there. It went in my mouth. Might as well do it again. That's what I meant to do.
Personally, I would have soaked it up with a sock.
Oh, that would have made sense. There is our accelerator pump. Not too much varnish in there. As you can see, it's completely petrified. So it still had some movement to it, but that's pretty much garbage and we need another one.
Look at that, man. If that doesn't work, I'll eat my hat.
That's pretty aggressive. I would imagine that'll work out okay. Alright, I figured in the best interest of this going well, I better just pull the carburetor off and spray it out really quick. There's some gunk on the accelerator pump diaphragm area, and then the power valve on this 2100 is located under the carburetor. And here's our new power valve. So basically how it works is you cruise around on your cruising air-fuel ratio, and when you tow into it, the power valve kicks in, and then you're getting that extra bit of fuel that you need for that extra load. On your 4-barrel carburetor, it's kind of the same idea how you have on your secondaries, you have bigger jets. So effectively this would be the same as running that larger jet on the front end, except when you're not into the throttle, this is factored out. And generally they're sized where half of your idle vacuum is what you size these to. They'll usually have a little number on them, but this is a stock one, so it's not stamped. But anyway, when these go bad, which after we saw the other accelerator pump diaphragm, what you're going to have happen is that fuel is going to be flowing through all the time, even at idle. So it can be quite a pain. So even though, as you saw, it kicked over and it idled just fine for the moment, what you could have happen is this diaphragm in here could break probably any time, just like the accelerator pump did. And then we're going to have to pull the carburetor off anyway. So we're just going to go through everything at once. It's kind of unfortunate because I had to suck that gasoline up into my mouth for no reason. But I guess that's just the nature of the beast. So anyway, off she goes. Try not to spill anything. And there we go. So we'll get this thing quickly overhauled and stick it back on there. Give us the best opportunity to run.
Alright, so I've got our coolant system buckled up here. Fan clears, it's not going to hit the radiator at all. Radiator is definitely not going anywhere. Hoses are spaced out with pieces of hose and electrical tape. Now we're going to dump some water in and see if she holds. Well, there's 1 gallon and I don't see any leaks yet. So we'll keep adding to that.
Yeah, that old power valve was definitely, didn't have a lot of life left to it, and that would have been a pain. So I'm glad we opted to do that. That was a good call.
We'll have mostly new gaskets in it, and for sure, this thing's gonna drive out of its grave, man.
Giving it the best opportunity to.
Did you see how small the primaries were in this carb?
Yeah, they are pretty darn small. I'd imagine it's because it's like a 250 with a 3-speed, so even though it's a really big engine, I'm sure that, they did that so it'd have good low end power and wouldn't stumble. The beauty of the 4-barrel is you'd have like your normal primaries, but if you got to like high RPM and you need to flow enough air, you could have your secondaries open. So and then you could just tune it with your spring based on what your load is, and you'd be just fine. But anyway, you know, I guess for just normal truck around the farm stuff, the 2-barrel would have been probably just fine. I'm sure the, you know, people don't spin them up too high.
All right, so now we got our makeshift fuel tank plumbed up. We're gonna run some fuel through our pump, through this reservoir canister down here, and out onto the ground. What we're doing here is we're gonna make sure that we get some clean fuel so we don't clean the carb and then fill it back up with gunk.
Yeah, as right now I think the carb's pretty decent and would run. So anyway, we're just gonna crank it over, let the fuel pump do its thing, and hopefully might take a moment, but there it goes.
A little more.
That's looking good. Like the good stuff, yeah.
Let's hook that up to our carburetor and see if we can make some noise.
Yeah, I think we're about ready. See if we can get it crank over fast enough to fill up.
So we lost spark or something. We have fuel in the carb now. What'd you do?
This isn't hooked up.
Oh.
Yeah, that'll do her.
Oh.
Doesn't have spark if the coil's not hooked up. How about that? Okay, now it's probably just going to be boom. Yep.
Holy shit!
Alright, I'm going to trade you. I'm going to work the throttle. You'll do this.
Yeah!
Give it a little choke.
Hey, is this thing tightened?
No, it's alright for now. Yeah, ultimately.
Why is she spitting? We need to set timing, or?
No, it's just lean. It's cold for the moment.
What happened?
I think we need to edit our cooling system there, but that sucker's a runner.
Dude, we fogged for skeeters too. Hey.
Awesome.
Yeah! Look at that. It's alive.
It lives.
Even everything that's dripping out's green, so there's still coolant in the block.
Yeah, so.
Dude, that thing runs good.
It's pretty decent.
Well, I mean, for sitting close to 30 years or something.
Yeah, if we weren't doing the coolant thing, I would have let it warm up. It was going to get to an idle there pretty quick, so before I put the carburetor on, I did set my idle mixture screws to 1.5 turns out, and eventually we'll stick a vacuum gauge on there and dial that in. Alright, so we got our leads in here now on our battery. So we're sitting at about 12 volts. If we're charging, we should see about 14 volts. If you remember, I did tie the voltage regulator line in with the coil, so when we're hooked up here for ignition power, as ghetto as that is, we got our voltage regulator excited also. Alright, crank it over, see if we can get somewhere, huh?
Oh yeah.
Tightened up our radiator hoses, put some more coolant in, ready to make some noise.
Ready for the noise?
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring the violence. Fucking blowing flames out this side.
Is it? That's awesome. I think it's still pretty cold. That's awesome.
We were making a touch of voltage.
Did it actually go up when it moved?
0.07. It went from, right now it's at 0.23 to 0.3.
So it actually does change though when it's running?
Yeah, a little tiny bit.
Okay. It might be charging, it just doesn't have enough RPM. Well, so anyway, I'm sure everyone wonders why the heck we didn't change the oil first, but honestly the oil looked pretty good. It's definitely old, but you know, it'd be nice to kind of warm it up and
then change it. So any particulate in the bottom that's stuck in sludge has a chance to warm up and drop. All the smoke you see right now is just the transmission fluid burning off.
Yeah, it doesn't have any blow by yet. Granted, it's only ran for a little bit, so we'll run it a few more times here, maybe for 5-10 minutes, and then we'll definitely dump the oil.
Oh, I really thought it was gonna go.
Go again and get her cleaned up. I know she can idle. She's seeming like she wants to idle. So if we can get some temp in it just for a moment, but won't, like I said, won't fool it too much till we have clean oil. But I'm hopeful now, I'm confident it's worth putting oil in at this point.
Hell yeah.
So it's gonna do something. Like it's got too much timing, so we're gonna have to move the distributor. It's really gacked in there. It's loose. The bolt's loose right now, but I mean it's like no thank you, I'm not moving.
All right, so I'd say that's a wrap for day one.
Yeah,
we got it running. We accomplished all our tasks for today.
Yeah, lit off, ran. Next time get a little bit of tuning in it. We were kind of stopped by a radiator hose that blew out.
My bad. Yeah, remember that one I said if it break, I'd eat my hat?
Better get ready. So, anyway.
Tomorrow I'm going to come back so we can get these wheels freed up, see if we can get anything to turn, hold air, and we'll move on from them. Hopefully by the end of this week we'll have this thing driving itself out of its grave.
Pretty much, yeah. The wheels can break free and the clutch is free, but the engine runs good enough. Should be alright. So,
step one, done. So, with that being said, make sure you guys like, subscribe, drop a comment down below, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to Luke's YouTube channel. There'll be a link in the description, Thunderhead 289. I will see you next time in Junkyard Digs. Keep your ears peeled, because this shit's going to be nuts. A couple weeks. See you then. Peace.